Living the good fat life with your host Karen and Sherri. They'll help everything align for your body, soul, and mind. The good fat life. Whether change comes slow or dramatically, the good fat life will help you sort things out organically.
It makes me laugh every time. Every time. It's so great to have a theme song.
It is great to have a theme song. And that theme song is
the best.
The best.
Thank you, Wally Pleasant.
Yeah, thank you, Wally. So, hey, Karen, how you doing?
Happy Thursday. I'm doing great. I had the second COVID shot, so I'm a bit spacier than usual, but people are used to me being spacey. But yeah. So if I trail off for a minute, keep that in mind. Yeah. So how are you?
I'm impressed. I was flat in bed the next day.
Lucky.
And I still kind of blame it on it. But anyway,
Right.
yeah. So great. And I'm so excited about what's coming up with Good Fat Life and with our guest today. And I just kind of wanted to take a minute and talk about, Good Fat Life, our magazine, because we're pulling together the next issue,
I know,
right?
Can you believe it already? Yeah.
No, I can't. But one of the things that I wanted to point out is self-care roadmap, right? We had the the discovery adventure in this in the April issue, and there's like 8 categories that we had identified, and they're physical, emotional, social, spiritual, personal, financial, work, and space.
Yeah.
So
Let's talk about
space.
Yeah, a lot of people don't take that into account, how important your space is for self-care. Well, first of all, you need to be safe, right? And second of all, if you have a lovely space, it sort of changes the dynamic of your life. And I have certainly moved into a new space and for my self-care, and that is how we have our guest here today. We have Suzanne Cory from Real Estate One. She is my real estate agent, and now I call her friend, and I'm so happy to have her here. She wears many hats as a mom, real estate agent, friend, extraordinaire. I mean, she has really helped me out so much. And then she also has a great background, and I'll let her tell us about it. Suzanne, thank you for being here.
Welcome. It is my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm always happy to talk about some of my favorite things, which of course is real estate, and my clients. Those are the things that really make the world go round for me. And I'm happy that you are starting to feel settled in your new space and, starting to turn that around.
Yeah, it already has changed my life in so many ways, so I can't thank you enough. But, you are so wonderful because you have so many gifts and talents. So tell us a little bit about your background and tell us how you started in real estate. And it does light you up, and that's part of self-care, right? Doing the things that you light you up. So tell us how you began your journey.
Well, with gratitude, my husband and I, we bought our first house, and we were quickly underwater like the rest of the world. And as a part of that, Chuck being the smart guy that he is, he's like, you know what? I think we should rent this house and go buy another one. And I'm like, okay. At the time, I was working as a part-time physical therapist. I worked at Crittenton Hospital before it became Ascension in their inpatient rehab unit. And I spent a lovely 11 years there. I loved the hospital. It was a great experience. But as a part of our real estate endeavors, Chuck got his real estate license, and I quickly got mine. And so we sort of became the Cory team. And now I am the full-time agent of our family. I'm the go-to person. I'm the one that's sort of helping everyone get to the right place. And so that's really my backstory. I'm grateful because of all of my years in the hospital. I understand people. I have spent a lot of time experiencing people's worst day of their lives. I mean, whether it be because at the hospital as a PT, you just experienced a traumatic injury like a stroke or something like that, or whether it be that you're trying to change your space for whatever journey you're on in your life. And so sometimes those days it's difficult with real estate. People are very emotional. They really want the house they want, and I just try to be calm and just share with people that it always is going to work out. We're going to find the right space, and when you get there, you're going to know it's the right space. And especially in the real estate environment that's on right now with multiple offers and people not getting the property they want and whatnot. The most important thing is to just have somebody on your side who's educated, who can really help you get to that next step. But more importantly, somebody who's going to help you with the emotional piece and just try to make it be a positive experience.
So I'm hearing a couple things from you, Suzanne, that I want to explore further. Is first, your physical therapy and your work in the hospital with people at like some of their lowest or most challenging moments. There's a physical component to that as well, right? There's an emotional component, and then there's a physical component. And you had said that when you help people find a home, you want them to be a home that is the space is physically a good fit, as well as help them navigate the emotional side of it. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I've never really heard or even thought
People
about
don't think
that.
of it that way. I bet you your clients don't think of that way either, and you have to think that through, and that's why it's so wonderful.
But you bring that whole wealth of experience behind you, and like I said, I never thought about that before.
Me neither.
So, I really try to cater to those people who are going through a life change that, maybe they're a little bit older, they're ready to downsize. So I'm catering to them in a certain way, as well as sort of the up and coming who are looking for their first time house. There's sort of two different sides of that puzzle, and one of the
stairs,
a
big issue.
So
on
some
both.
of the foundational requirements are, like you're mentioning, like stairs and having, the personal care space set up appropriately so that they can move around and navigate, getting in and out of the shower and all that sort of thing. So that my physical therapy brain absolutely turns on for that, because I'm really trying to make sure that whatever space they end up in, they're going to be comfortable there for the duration.
And can I stop here? So what I think is so fascinating about that is so many people have problems with their parents saying, "Dad, you need handles in your bathtub and everything." But if they hear it from you, it's like, "Oh, okay, well that makes sense, right?" So you help with that too. I'm sure it helps bridges sort of some of the family issues when the kids are like, "Dad, you can't have stairs," and you come in and say, "Well, let's make sure you can do it in a more like a non-judgmental way where it's not a family dynamic," and it sort of helps people in that way as well.
Well, when you work for 11 years on an inpatient rehab unit with discharge planning and home evaluation, I mean, literally that is what I did for a living.
Yeah.
So, and that was even before I became a real estate professional. I just, and the joy, I got so much joy from being able to help folks in whatever situation they're in, be able to work through whatever the challenges are to make it to the end, to make it home, right? That's the whole goal. And so sometimes that would require a change of space entirely. Sometimes that requires an upgrade to the space that you're currently in. And from the real estate side, obviously I want to make money like everybody else, right? So for me, I make more money if you want to sell your house, but I would never ever work with a client with that as the goal. My goal is always to make sure that people, in whatever way they need assistance, get the assistance that they require. And I have these sort of two different backgrounds that kind of collide with each other in a really different way. Yeah. And so at the end of the day, I just want people to really find their home that's beautiful and elegant and organized. And I have people for all of those things. So, if you find a space that needs to be spruced up, I got a slew of people for that. And if you find a space that's not organized, or maybe you're not a very well-organized person, I actually met with somebody yesterday who is trying to make the transition from their downsizing, and they're overwhelmed with all of the things. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know what? I've got somebody. She'll come over. She'll bring a cup of coffee and help you just go through it, and it's going to be okay. Like, I feel like in all of those types of transitions in life, whether it's from the hospital to home, or from the home that you've been in for 30 to 50 years, if you have the right steps and the right people who are on your side, who are just helping to bridge the gap, so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming, I spend a lot of time de-stressing people.
De-stressing people.
Well, because you can't make a good decision if you're stressed, right? I mean, if you're trying to think about, oh, is this going to be the right space for me? And you're very concerned and emotional about it. If I take away some of those barriers so that you can just really focus on, the home and what the requirements are and what's needed, then people can make good decisions without all of that other stuff sort of getting in the way.
Wow. Do you miss working with the patients, or do you feel like you sort of get the same sort of gratification working with people and selling real estate?
I'll just be totally honest. When I left the hospital, I thought that I was going to just miss it so much. And I do miss my other coworkers, and there are pieces about the hospital that I miss. But I do get the same gratification as a realtor because people really appreciate somebody who's going to come in. I always say, this is my favorite line. I'm sure I've already shared it with you before. I just want the seller to know what they're selling and the buyer to know what they're buying. Everybody's square. We're on the same page. There's no, hidden business. It's just a very clean and clear transaction so that people, both the seller and the buyer, can feel happy and positive. The seller feels good because they're moving on to their next space, and the buyer feels great because they're moving in. So I don't miss the hospital as much, and the primary reason for that is because I do have 3 children, and the biggest gift that I've ever given my kids as a mom is not have to be at the hospital by 7:30 in the morning every day.
Right. Yeah.
Real estate, typically, although not at the moment. I was starting at 7 this morning.
Wow.
But real estate typically starts at 9. And so at my house, I try to give the gift to my kids and my husband of we try to be very chill in the morning. There's no morning rush. I know a lot of families have to experience that. And so real estate was really able to give me that gift. Now it's not flexible like everybody thinks. It's go time all the time. But I am grateful that I have a partner who understands what I'm trying to do. So if I need him to pick up the kids or pick up dinner, or if I hire the cleaning lady, he just looks the other way and it's fine. Yeah. I never tell him when the cleaning lady's coming. She just shows up, and then Chuck, in his heart says, "Wow, we have a clean house. That's fabulous."
Yeah. I understand that.
That's a great. No, that's a great point. But there's and so you're bringing up another thing too, is that being able to, because one of the things in Good Fat Life that we're really all about is creating the life that you want. Right? It's we're not often taught that. We're not often taught that we can really intentionally and deliberately create the life that we want. So we have that idea that we have to go to school, we got to get an education, get a job, with benefits and blah blah blah. Well, the world's different. The world's so changed. And regardless, we can say, I want to create this beautiful morning for my family, and I want to do work that makes my heart sing, and I can do both.
I am grateful because I feel like I am one of the few people that really is doing what they love. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to look at all different types of properties, from the high end to the low end, with all different kinds of people. I just really get inspired by that. I really love it. And in the middle of all of it, one of the things that's really, really important to me is, I try to be very respectful of people's privacy. I always joke with my clients, I was like, from being in the hospital, I have my own HIPAA guidelines for real estate.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I'm very discreet. I've had some high level clients, and I would never,
talk about it.
I would never do that because it's just not the right business practice. It's not the good thing to do. Yeah.
So, go ahead, Karen.
I was just going to say, that's why you seem to have a true mission and stick to your true core. Were you, when your family decided that you're going to be selling real estate, were you nervous about it, or were you hesitant about it, or did you think I'm not sure this is what I want to do, or did you feel this way from the beginning?
So when I made the transition, I was still working as a physical therapist and a realtor, and it just became very clear that I was not going to be effective at both, and it wasn't appropriate for me to try to do both. So I made that change, and I will tell you, my first year alone in real estate was extremely difficult for me because as a physical therapist, I teach somebody how to walk, teach somebody how to get in and out of bed, and I get them back home. They totally love me. Like, they really were like, yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And in real estate, I did not have that thick business skin, and quickly, I got taken advantage of because, people, unfortunately, people do that. But fortunately, I had my rock behind me, Chuck, saying, "It's okay, just move on. It's okay, just move on. It's okay, just move on." I'm looking at him like, but they're not being kind to me. I'm not used to that. And he's like, "It's okay, just move on." So I've learned how to not change. I still will go way above and beyond what a typical real estate agent will do for their clients, from organizing a renovation that might need to occur, or a estate sale that might need to happen, or the cleaning company to show up. I really take on all of those steps because, again, one of my goals as a physical therapist, as a realtor, is to just try to de-stress the client so that they can be making good decisions.
My own personal journey. I mean, she really, I was going through so much, and it was just very heavy. And she was just like, "Okay, well, let's just break this down." And I was just, okay. Yeah. And I just feel like I'm in the most lovely little vibration and spat, and like people are already seeing on me. So thank you. You really do have a gift. And I think staying true to your mission really helps that. And I was going to ask you, you have seen people of all different income brackets, all different ethnicities, all different genders, everything. What is the common truth with all people that you think that you have noticed? Because you've been able to work with all different kinds of people. What is always true with people that you've found?
Well, when you're talking about space and trying to create the space that is sort of going to detox you at the end of the day, and mind you, in this current environment that has dramatically changed. I mean, I think that we can all agree that what people are asking for from their homes in a post-COVID situation, as opposed to what they were asking from their homes before COVID, was completely different.
So can you talk about that a little bit?
That's
Yeah.
So before COVID, everybody was like, yeah, I want a completely open concept, no walls. We're all going to be in here together all the time, and it's going to be amazing.
That's hysterical.
And then at post-COVID, people are like,
all walls.
"Oh my gosh, I need some walls." And I never thought about that. I mean, because there's so much.
So true.
It's so much happening in the house. I mean, you've got two adults that are often, both working remotely from home, and then you've got the kids remotely from home. And in my experience, my kids were at home, then they were at school, then they were half day, not.
Yeah.
I mean, it's enough to make your head spin. And I have, fortunately, I have 3 children, 2 of which are at one school and 1 is at the other. But next year, I'm going to have 3 kids at 3 different schools. So that always makes it even more fun, right? Because you're just, nobody's schedule is normal.
Right.
The only thing that was great is that prior to COVID, I might need to find my sitter, who I tell my children is a blessing. I could not operate with life without her, and she knows who she is. Honestly, she's my savior. But now at least I know Chuck's always home. So I don't have to worry about who's coming in and out if I'm gone at a showing or whatever. So that sort of made it a little bit easier. But people are certainly interested in having walls again.
That's so funny that you say that. I mean, even, my husband and I, the kids are grown and stuff, and we have 2 cats. And like if he has a call and I have a call, a Zoom or something, suddenly it's like well, what time's your call? Because my office is in the lower level, but I've been moving upstairs because it's just lighter and brighter, but yet there's that. Well, can we shut the doors because I don't want to hear your call.
Right. Yeah. My kids like to start playing the drums or like, knocking on the door. I'll be like, I'm on a Zoom. That's when they decide to like have band practice, It's like, I'm on a Zoom. Yeah.
I never really got that.
I know.
That
it's funny.
change in,
What about in priorities as far as like, before it seemed like people wanted bigger, better. Are people more like, I don't need all that stuff anymore since COVID? Or is it kind of...
I think that's more of an individual decision on, what type of home is going to be appropriate for you, and do you want the sort of the latest and greatest in all the things, or if you don't. I think that people also, are being thoughtful about how much land they get with their house.
Oh yeah.
Because, I'm grateful that, I do have some outdoor space with my house, and that's really important to my family. I mean, I got to kick the kids out.
Yeah.
I'm like, nope, you got to go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No,
well,
that's
just mental.
COVID.
Well, that's mental health, and it's good for everybody too. Right. To be outside.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And during COVID, that's the only place we could go, right? Basically. Yeah. So that's interesting. Wow. Yeah. So how do you see the future of real estate? Because tell us right now about the market. It's insane, right?
So the market is insane. It's so interesting because, from a buyer perspective, you absolutely have to make sure that you have a qualified realtor who understands all these different types of, it's not about the money. Everybody has money. Mm-hmm. It's not about who has the highest bid. I know everybody's like, oh, it's another highest and best. Well, what does that really mean? Like, it's really an understanding of terms and clauses and addendums. So when you're presenting the offer, you're understanding exactly what the seller is doing. And the other thing is it's about relationships. I mean, I have relationships with a lot of realtors. I mean, I've been doing this for a long, long time. And at the end of the day, the goal is to sell the property or to buy the property, no matter which side you're on, right? The exchange of property is what's important. And so making sure that you have a qualified realtor who has those relationships built in, who understand, what these different clauses mean. It's really vital in order to be the one that ends up with the property in the end. I mean, if you have been out there and you're constantly getting outbid, it's not just about the money. If you're constantly getting outbid, then there's something wrong with maybe how the transaction is being presented. I mean, I'll email the transaction and then I'm calling the agent. I'm really, putting myself out there because, and the agent on the other side wants to work with somebody who's well organized and understands all the pieces that are going to go into the transaction so that we can actually close in the end, because that's really the goal. So the market is, like you alluded to, the market is crazy. So as long as from the buyer standpoint, if you have a qualified professional who understands all those things, that will certainly help you get what you want. And then from the sales perspective, it's the same thing. I mean, you are going to put your house on the market, and then quickly you're going to have 3 to 12 offers. How do you figure out which one's the right one? I mean, sometimes the money is similar, and this one's putting 5%, but this one has an appraisal addendum. This one has an escalation clause. I mean, you get all these things, and trying to understand what they really mean is tricky. And so, as a seller, you really have to be able to kind of have someone help you read through what all of these different purchase agreements are stating.
Well, and now everything's going so fast. It's like you don't have time to think.
Yeah.
And I have to share that for me, I enjoy the process of getting a buyer to trust me. And I do that by a lot of things. But the main way I do it is I like to have the opportunity to show them a number of different properties and sort of talk through, what this house has and what that house has, so that I can sort of get as much information. I'm spending a lot of time listening to every single thing that they're saying so that I can really understand what it is that they want in the end. Sometimes buyers go into it thinking they want one thing. But
sometimes I would
Yeah.
But I spend a lot of time listening to what they're really saying.
Mm-hmm.
And then I sort of sneak in. I one of my favorite things to do is to be going to show a number of houses. And then I'll tell my clients, okay, well, I have a surprise house for you that we're going to go look at. And they're like, oh, okay. And then when they pick the surprise one, I'm like, I knew it.
So you have a good sense about people. So I know you're not a fortune teller and who can predict the future, but what do you think is going to happen with real estate once the foreclosure moratorium is up and people are going to start? Do you think a lot of people are going to be evicted and foreclosed on, or?
You know, you're saying, I can't give a crystal ball. You know, there's so many different reports, and there's a lot of experts that have a lot to say about all of that. But right now, in my opinion, you know, we're in a housing shortage. Mm-hmm. And if some of the people who are in forbearance at the moment, you know, ending up in a different situation where they're not able to work out the forbearance with their lender, and they end up in some sort of, you know, short sale or foreclosure. I don't know that I know people are very worried that it's going to end up in 2008 and in 2010. Like, we're all very like, oh no, we're going to do it again. And,
yeah.
And honestly, if you really look at what lenders are doing and what appraisers are doing, they really are making sure that we don't end up in that kind of thing. We have Frank Dodd laws now that are protecting the consumer so that, you know, all of those things are not going to happen again. So what I think is that we're just going to sort of level off, and it's just going to be stable. And, you know, we're going to have more properties possibly for sale because of the foreclosures that are going out there. But there's so many people who are interested in finding a different place to call home that it's not going to be some catastrophic event. But that is just my opinion. There might be somebody, you know, with a different set of eyes or different information that has a much broader range of what they think is going to occur.
Well, there's properties. It seems like there's properties being built everywhere around here. It seems
Well,
like there's hundreds of them.
Well, our population is changing. I mean, you know, we have the millennials who are coming up the pipe and needing a place to live, and you know, our geriatric population are living longer, and so, you know, their housing needs are changing, and so that's one of the reasons why we have the housing shortage, because we sort of have this catastrophic event where, you know, we've got all these different people sort of working together against each other, and they all need a place to live. So I think the builders are in a good place. Obviously the change in cost of lumber, and I mean, that's certainly going to play into things, but I don't anticipate, from what I understand, I don't know everything, right? But from what I understand, you know, they kind of think that some of that will settle down, and lumber's not going to end up being $100 for a 2x4. It'll settle down a little bit
Once people get back
Yes.
to the full manufacturing again.
So tell us about, because we talk about space as being part of self-care. Do you have like certain parameters that you go by that you want for people to have a home that maybe that you want them to have in their home? Like, what is it? Is it security, safety? Like, what are the things that you go by and you want everyone to have that in their home? Maybe they don't even realize they need that. Is there something, the guideline you go by?
So as I've sort of already shared, the thing that is most important to me is I really just want the seller to know what they're selling and the buyer to know what they're buying. And so what that really means is that I want there to be a house inspection where, you know, a buyer has an opportunity to understand the nuts and bolts of the house. I know that in this environment, there's a lot of houses that are being sold without an inspection, and I don't think that's good business for the seller or the buyer. I mean, certainly it makes the transaction easier sometimes because you don't have that piece to sort of get in the way of getting to the end. But then at the end, you have a buyer and a seller who haven't really looked at all the pieces of the house. And so I just think that piece is really, really important in terms of, you know, understanding them. But with regard to their specific space, I don't have any specifics. But what I do have is the ability to really understand a person's situation and what their real requirements are, the bottom level requirements. And they may say, oh, I only need this much space, but then they're telling me, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to happen in that much space. I already know that I need to either change the type of house that they're looking for, or change the location, or change their budget, or whatever it is, to try to find what it is that they're telling me, even though I'm sort of reading in between the lines. And that really does change from person to person.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably
sure
more
that's true.
individual.
Right.
What about in your own space? What do you need for self-care in your own space? Like, as far as what do you need in a space to feel like you're safe and you have self-care there?
My most important thing, and this rule has been forever, is there are no toys in my kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
My kitchen is straight.
Yeah.
My kids know if you leave your stuff in my kitchen, it's going in the garbage.
Oh, no.
I don't care what it is. So for me, like, I don't expect the house to be perfect. I'm not that type of person.
With 3 kids, you'd go crazy.
Yeah.
It's just not who I am.
Yeah.
But I like the kitchen to be a certain way. That's sort of, because that's the heartbeat of the house, and to be healthy, you need to make sure that you're cooking in a clean environment and all that sort of thing. So for me, my kitchen is always good, and I just relax about the rest of it.
Yeah, and an outdoor space, right? That's so important. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. We had it. My mom was in town, so we just had a grill out yesterday, and
Nice.
the pool's open, and I'm like, oh, it's so nice. Summer's here. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful when we have those 86-degree days.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Sherri, what about you? What's important for you for your space?
I need to have room to create.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, my thing is, I call our home the sweet spot of the universe.
Aw.
Because the lot is just magnificent.
Yeah, you have a beautiful home.
For what we love. It's certainly
It
needs
is
its
lovely.
love, but I need the ability to create and have a very artistic community, but outdoor space as well. So, and I love plants and water, and what we had dogs. What got us to the house that we had, and it's funny that you say that, because I told our realtor we had 3 days to find a house, and because we moved from out of town, and I told my realtor, I do not want if there's any white tile in the house, don't even show it to us, right? Do not even show it to us. Well, of course, the
Every
last
house,
house
yeah.
he showed us, he goes, I'm so sorry, but there's white tile, but I think you need it in the house. And of course, we walked in and said, this is it.
Yeah. Oh,
Right?
I can see why you have a beautiful house. Yeah.
So, but anyways, it's just funny how, to your point is, but for me, it's space that I can do my crafty stuff, and my husband doesn't have to trip over it, and space for my books.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Right.
Yeah. Sherri loves books. She made her Christmas tree out of books this year.
It
so
was,
cute.
yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And I could have made a book forest.
You know
Exactly.
what? My youngest, her favorite thing right now is to go to the old bookstore.
Oh, yeah.
I love this
that.
child.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah. My kids are like that as well. Yeah.
So we're building. One of the things I've always wanted is a bookcase with a library
ladder.
ladder.
Oh, I
so,
love that. Yeah.
So we're in the process of designing that right now.
Fantastic. So you're redoing your home, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's always a balance between,
Yeah.
do you travel?
Yeah.
Do you do
Yeah.
this? Do you do that?
Yeah. So for me with Suzanne and my space, and this is a completely, like, I feel like I'm in a total new space, new life kind of thing. It wasn't really about the house or the location. It was more like the energy's weird here. And I know she kept going like, you're crazy, but I'm like, no, the energy's just weird here. And then the house that I'm in, the energy just feels perfect. Perfect. Yeah. But I mean, and it doesn't have to be like palatial or anything. I'm about the energy. And there was some really cute homes we saw, but I'm just like, the energy's weird here. Something happened here or something. I don't like it.
You are not alone in that.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I enjoy when I'm working with a client, showing them as many houses as I can, because then they really can, once they step in the door, they're
right.
like,
Yeah.
This
This
is
is
the
it.
right one.
Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's so funny how you just know that. We've bought a lot of houses in our lives and it's so funny. You just know it. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. But then also when you don't get, there's been times where we haven't gotten the house
That you know.
yeah. And I've learned that it's okay because
not where you're supposed to be.
it's not the right. There's something that's just not right.
And
As Chuck would say, it's okay. Just move on.
It's okay. Just move on.
Just keep
right,
going. Yeah.
right. And I'm sure that now, because I'm hearing this from people looking for homes, is that it's kind of it's such an emotional roller coaster right now.
Yeah. And it was hard to even find a place just because of my situation and the money that I have, and there's nothing in our area, nothing. And I was just like, we're never going to be able to find it. But I kept also thinking at the same time, I'll end up where I'm supposed to end up, and it doesn't even really matter where it is at the point. That's where I'm supposed to be, and I feel that way. So that is such a gift. So thank you for that. And
that it's okay, just move on. I mean, that's so grounding, though.
Yeah,
Well, and I feel like a part of my role is when people are getting emotional about the house that they're looking at. You know, sometimes when you're emotional about something, you're not making good decisions, and the buyers just want to start throwing more money on it, and then it's not the right thing anymore.
You want them to be long
and
lasting,
I'm like,
happy.
No, you know, let's just do this, and you know, we'll see what happens, and you know, there's other things besides throwing more money at it, you know, because it's, you know, none of us have an endless budget to just keep throwing more money at it.
And there's also, you don't want buyer's remorse either.
I tell them all the time, when you write that mortgage check every month, I do not want you to hate me.
I was going to say that's really important to you. Yes, yeah, right. That's really important to you. You want people to be happy forever because that's who you are. That's your integrity, and that you would feel really sad about that if they felt.
I never push people's budgets.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm very conservative myself, and so I try to just find the right fit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you keep centered like that? Like, do you have a daily routine, or do you have a spirituality, or how do you keep yourself centered in your vision, like in everything you do?
I am a Christian, and I do just try to look at life and what's going on around me, and with gratitude. Like, that really is my thing. I just try to focus and be grateful. You know, I was sharing with a mother the other day, and I'll get emotional, but you know, I love going to the swim club right now. My kids are on the swim team, and we just started this, and to see their faces. I took for granted, we've taken for granted people's not being able to see people's faces. And so I'm just like, with gratitude, I get to look and see the faces of all these kids that I've watched grow up. Even if they're not my own, I get to see them again. So I just try to take gratitude in the small things. I don't actively do this, but I have in the past had a gratitude book where you just write one thing that you're grateful for that's, you know, different every single day. So I really just, and I learned that from the hospital. Mm-hmm. You know, when you spend enough time with the elderly who are having the worst case scenario, you learn really quickly sort of what life is supposed to be about, and where the gratitude is supposed to come in from.
Well, and it's so easy for us to take so many things for granted, right? To be able to take a full deep breath of clean air, to be able to, you know, have a drink of clean water. Yeah. Those really, at the end of the day, are big deal things. Right?
Absolutely.
And we can't take those things for granted again, because now we're reopening, restarting, and people are already starting to get a little bit, you know, and it's just like, no, like, this could happen to us again, and it could happen worse. So we have to be very careful about all our resources and people and places and things, and just very intentional with our minds and our bodies and our spirits. It's so important, you know?
Right. So going back
speaking
of that, right. So with Good Fat Life, we do spend, I was just noticing the hundreds of hours that go into each issue for curating the content. And so if anybody's interested in getting it, you know, go to, you can scan the QR code, or you can go to goodfatlife.com and subscribe. You can subscribe and get this beautiful copy sent to your home. Yes. And, or, you know, you can get it online digitally.
Yeah, a digital copy. Yeah.
A digital copy. But I really was thinking about that, Karen, is like how many hundreds of hours that we really are mindful.
Yeah, and what a gift it is to be able to do that, right? Too.
Exactly. And I jokingly say it's my own self research, right?
Right,
because
for sure.
The things that kind of we're talking about, it's like, well, you know, I want to know how to do this, or how to think this, or where to find this. And
right.
So
yeah, so
selfish.
We're certainly not the experts, but we certainly we're learning a lot through our magazine and through our podcast and through great guests like Suzanne. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So Suzanne, a quick question for you. So if you were, you know, what are some of the things that you find are kind of basics for people when they're to have in their homes? So, you know, we had said space, you want to be safe and you want to feel good about your purchase or whatever, but what are some of those things that you find really make a difference to support a happy home? where the space can make an impact.
Absolutely. I mean, so I really spend a lot of time in questioning a new client, not really about, how many bedrooms do you want? That doesn't really help me find the right house for you. I mean, everybody wants around a 3-bedroom plus, and if they got a bunch of kids, then they need a bigger house, right?
Right.
Okay. But I really spend time trying to understand their hobbies and who they are and what they do outside of the house, because those are going to help lead me to what type of property they want. So, for example, somebody who is an artist, they're going to want a house that has, some of the characteristics, and they're going to be looking for some of those, those older type things, and that's going to make them feel centered in their artistry, and finding a room that has enough light so they can paint, if that's something that they're really focused on. I've had clients who need the home to face a certain direction because of their culture that is required, and so much so that they need the bed to be on a certain,
like they feng shui.
They have to sleep with their, I always get mixed up. It's either they have to sleep with their head to the west or to the east. I apologize. I always double check. I think it's west. But, it's like that's important to them. And so, even before I go to show the house, to understand where the bedrooms are and where the bed would make sense in the room, like that's really important to them. And so, so just really understanding more about the person than just, I need a house that's 3 bedrooms and blah, blah, blah.
Got it.
They're the way that they're going to use the house aside from that is what's important, because everybody needs a kitchen, everybody needs a bathroom, everybody needs a bedroom, everybody needs a family room,
and a washer.
Yeah.
and some people, having a space that's next to a busy road is actually important for them. They like that. Like they like to hear the traffic. Like that's a thing for them. And some people, absolutely no way, no how. I am not going to be near a busy road. I do not want to hear anything. My home is my sanctuary. I need an outdoor space that's, gonna, be the right place for me. And I actually have a client, that wants shade, like in his backyard in the morning. So finding the direction of the home is really important too.
Yeah. That's interesting because my daughter, she drives and she's 16, and I live a little bit farther away from our current family home now. And it was really important for me for it to be easier for her to get there. So I had to kind of think that, and with your help, like it needs to be by a highway. It can't be difficult for her to get to me and get back to where she needs to go to the other house. So those things are really important. And I do live kind of close to the freeway now, but it sounds like the ocean.
Oh, yeah? So it's kind of a little white noise.
It's funny. The neighbors told me that because I'm like, oh, I didn't realize we're so close. And they're like, no, if you really listen, it sounds like the ocean. I'm like, oh, it's the ocean. So thank you to Tim and Steve. Yeah. My new neighbors. They mentioned it to me. By the way, my neighbors are fabulous. So thank you.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So it's just amazing to think about all the people that you've met and you've put in homes. And does that give you like a really sense of pride and help you sleep at night and feel great about what you're doing and keep going forward? And
absolutely. I don't spend time sending things to people's mailboxes because I get all of my clients through referrals. Mm-hmm. And those are the best quality clients anyway, right?
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I have, different people who refer their clients to me because they know like this client has all these other things going on. They can't have a realtor that's going to be a used car salesman and just try to push a house on them. Mm-hmm. I would never do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've had clients who I've been showing them houses on and off for 2 years, but they want something specific in a specific location. And, I'm happy to do it. I'll show you as much as you want, whenever you want to see it. I am happy to kind of go through that with you. Because then when they finally do find the right thing, they are just so overjoyed and so happy. And so it works out.
You're happy and it works. I'm still good. No, I'm still good friends with a realtor that we met when we moved from Oregon to Ohio. Because she shared, a lot of your beliefs and philosophies, and you just couldn't help but become dear friends.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's how I feel about Suzanne.
Yeah, it's just
I do end up having lots of wine with people.
Nothing wrong with that, right?
No judgment. So we always ask our guests, for someone that's thinking about changing their space or at home right now, what could they do right now to sort of help them think about it or move forward to find find the good space or sell their house or do what they need to do kind of right today, what would be your advice?
I mean, if you're very serious, and even if you're like, I have a client right now who, I started talking to her last year. She's not going to sell her house probably for another year, but she needed all of that time to kind of get it all worked up and get it all worked out, and we can work together to come up with a plan. So, I've met with her on and off. It's not very much. Like I actually just took a walk with her yesterday, but so I would say to find a professional, a realtor professional who can help you formulate a plan, because then it doesn't feel overwhelming. And that's really the bottom line. People feel so overwhelmed and so emotional, whether they're moving because it's their house they've lived in for 50 years or whatever. They really need to just, formulate a plan. And I'm happy to do that, and I don't pressure people. I don't hound you or whatever. You call me once, we'll formulate a plan. I'll follow up in an appropriate way, whatever it makes sense, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So that's really the best advice I could offer if you're trying to decide, or maybe you're not sure if you should move. Maybe you just want to get an understanding of what your valuation is. That's part of the goal, is to just help people make good decisions about moving forward or not moving forward.
So when people want to make those decisions, how can they find you?
The best way to reach me is to just give me a call.
Okay. Why don't you tell us your phone number? It'll go up on the
It's
screen.
248-228-6071. You can also email me at thecoryteam@gmail.com. And people tend to put an E in my last name. There's no E. It's just Cory, so the Cory team. You can look me up on the Real Estate One website. My office is in Royal Oak, although I really work from Beverly Hills. That's where I live. So those are the ways to get in touch with me.
And by word of mouth, right?
Yes, by word of mouth. I as you shared, we're in the Synergy Business Network group together. So I spend some time on there and doing membership things for them. So.
Yeah.
Well, that's great.
Thank you so much for being here today, Suzanne. I feel like a lot of people needed to hear this today, and I know it's going to be helpful. And I think it's time for us to go live our good fat life. What do you think, Sherri?
Until next week.
Until next week. Yeah.
See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day, ladies.
You too.